Ventricles.
So these are the lateral ventricles here. There's an anterior, posterior, and temporal horn. Anterior, posterior, temporal horn of the lateral ventricle. Lateral ventricle. This here, this head of the ram, is the third ventricle, and down here is the fourth ventricle. So lateral ventricles, third ventricle, fourth ventricle. Lateral ventricle.
Is there a medial ventricle?
There is not, but
Okay.
there's some connection points.
Oh, okay.
And so this, so there's a connection point between the lateral and the third here, and that's like where the horns kind of attach here. Okay, these are like foramen that kind of empty into the third ventricle, and then this neck of this ram, this is called the cerebral aqueduct. Cerebral aqueduct. So two lateral ventricles, third ventricle, cerebral aqueduct, fourth ventricle. And that's just the anatomy for this ventricular
What is the
system.
two little things on the side?
They're called the foramen of Monroe, but they have another name that's easier, or the interventricular foramen.
Interventricular foramen.
These are just part of the fourth ventricle, and they lead to what's called the medial and lateral apertures. And so, and they basically empty out and then send CSF all around the brain. And so it's, if it goes down, it's going to the spinal cord. If it goes through these, then it's coming back around in the brain. I'll just do these structures really quick because these are the ones that are important for the quiz.
The seahorse.
So get oriented here.
Looks like a snake.
It does kind of look like a cobra. So I'm just going to go over these midbrain structures really quickly. And so I always start here with the thalamus. Okay, this is the thalamus. This dot here in the thalamus is really, there's two thalamuses. There's the left and the right. This is called the interthalamic adhesion. So that connects the left and right side. So thalamus.
Isn't that like a magnet?
Yeah.
Magnet.
Yeah, it's part of it. It's where the magnet is, I think. Yeah.
Oh.
But interthalamic adhesion. And then right next to it, number 22, that's going to be the hypothalamus. Hypothalamus. Here we have the epithalamus. Epithalamus. And then here you have, actually let's see. So the epithalamus. And then this is going to be the pineal gland back here. Pineal gland is going to secrete melatonin and let you go to sleep. Posteriorly, this area is called the tectum or the corpora quadrigemina. This is where you have the 28, the superior colliculus, 29, the inferior colliculus. And then Olivia was asking about the peduncles. This is the cerebellar peduncle here. Cerebellar, that's this one. And then this is the cerebral peduncle here. Cerebellar, cerebral. Peduncle means foot. And so this is like the foot of the cortex. This is like the foot of the cerebellum. And so cerebral peduncle, cerebellar peduncle. Peduncle. Yeah. So again, like pineal gland, superior colliculus, inferior colliculus, cerebral and cerebellar peduncle. And then here, going back anteriorly, this is going to be the pons here. Pons. Everything below here is then going to be medulla. Medulla here. Last structure that's kind of here, so thalamus, 21, 22, hypothalamus, 23. This is the stalk that connects to the pituitary gland. This has a crazy name. It's called the infundibulum. Infundibulum.
Do you know how to spell that?
Unfortunately, yes. So an infundibulum. It just means stalk. It means stalk. Infundibulum. And then the pituitary gland would be here. But most yeah, like iliotibial tract. And then this one here, this is the optic chiasm. So this is where vision from your right eye crosses left and vice versa. So 24, optic chiasm, 23, infundibulum. Okay.
I'm gonna name my future kids that. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay. Then you have like the pons and the, you have the caudate nucleus, or caudate putamen, and the insula. That's here. Caudate putamen, insula. And so we won't talk much about these two structures, but they're on the ID. And that's it. Frontal lobe. There's two cortexes here. This red one is the motor cortex, and the purple one is the somatosensory cortex. So what's this red one? Motor cortex, and this is the
Somatosensory.
Somatosensory. This one is involved in movement. This is involved in like sensation, like perceiving senses, like mostly for touch and pain. This area back here is what lobe? Occipital lobe. It's involved in what?
It's like that. Like, ¿cómo se ve?
Constriction and dilation or what?
Visual.
Visual.
Yeah,
Visual.
Frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe. And then what lobe is this? Temporal lobe. It's going to be involved in language. It's going to be involved in hearing. It's going to be involved in hearing. It's even involved in taste and memory. If we look inside, this white structure here is called a corpus callosum. Corpus callosum. And then this walnut-shaped structure is the thalamus. Next to the thalamus, you have the hypothalamus. Above the thalamus, you have the epithalamus. Epithalamus, like epidermis is the skin. So now this is on top of the thalamus, so epithalamus. So epithalamus, thalamus, and hypothalamus. There's a gland that's attached here.
Pituitary gland.
Pituitary gland. That's the master regulatory gland. This part that's the little brain is called what?
Cerebellum.
Cerebellum. And then this big bump here is called pons. And then underneath the pons, that last structure is the medulla. Medulla oblongata.
Medulla oblongata.
It is.
Familiar.
Yeah, that's the beginning of the spinal cord.
It sounds like Star Wars, like Padme.
My medulla
How do you
oblongata.
say her last name? It's kind of sounds like that. Padme. Amidala.
Amidala.
Yeah, there you
Sounds
go.
like a spell.
Padme Amidala. Medulla oblongata. Medulla oblongata is also involved in controlling aspects of breathing, your heartbeat. It's also where centers are for vomiting and sneezing. A lot of our reflexes are controlled by the medulla. And so pons is just breathing. The medulla is going to be heart. Also controls partially breathing, and then reflexes like vomiting, coughing, sneezing, those types of things. So those are the major structures. Like really fast. We're going to talk about all this next.